Hello, this is Sherline of Kathanika. The story I have for you is called The Handkerchief. This is a tale from Africa. Once in a land far away, there lived a girl called Zakia. Zakia was pleasant and smart. Zakia lived with her father, a wealthy merchant. Zakia was so clever that her father, the old merchant, always asked her for advice. But once, Zakia's father did not ask for her advice, and Zakia was very angry and upset about it. This was when the king had asked the merchant for Zakia's hand in marriage. Zakia's father was very happy and thought that this was a wonderful thing to happen. Marriage into the royal family would make Zakia queen. Surely this was an opportunity of a lifetime, and the merchant was certain his daughter would approve. Zakia's father did not think that his daughter would have any objections, and therefore he said to the king, "O my king, my daughter Zakia will be very glad to marry you." But Zakia? She was not glad. "No, father," she said. "No, he may be the king, but I will not marry and love a man whom I do not know." "Oh, my dear daughter," said the old merchant, "if you refuse to marry the king, he may get offended and angry. The king is very good and clever. I ask you to reconsider." Zakia saw that her father was terribly upset and hurt by her refusal. She felt sad for the old man. Zakia thought about the matter and said, "All right, father, I will marry the king, but on one condition. The king must learn a trade and be able to support himself and a family. I'll marry him only if he does so. You see, father, today the king is well off. He has everything he needs. But what if, God forbid, one day he loses his throne? What shall we do then? We shall be poor. We shall die of hunger. Oh, father, go to the king and tell him my condition." Zakia's father thought over what his daughter had said and agreed with her point of view. He went to the king and conveyed his daughter's message. The king smiled and said, "Your daughter is not only charming, but very clever too. I will be glad to do as she asks. I am sure that we shall be happy together." The king thought and considered the various trades he could learn and found himself pulled towards the art of weaving. So the king got himself a loom, appointed a master weaver as his teacher, and began to learn the trade of a weaver. The king put his foot on the pedal of the loom, moved the shuttle back and forth, and soon he could weave. When the king had finished his lessons, as a final project, he wove a silken handkerchief. The king wove the silken handkerchief and had it sent over to Zakia as a present. "If she likes my present, she will marry me, I am sure," he thought. Zakia received the handkerchief. She examined the craftsmanship. It was perfect. Zakia was delighted. "Now I will be happy to marry the king," she said. The merchant was very happy. A grand wedding was planned. The entire kingdom was given a feast. The king and Zakia were married and began to live happily. Zakia made a wonderful queen. She took over supervision of the royal palace and often helped the king with her clever advice. One day, the king came to his wife. "I want to know my people. How can I learn what they think? How can I learn what they want?" Zakia thought for a minute and said, "My king, If a man wishes to know another man well, he must live with him or meet him often. If you wish to know your people, you must put on the same clothes as our people, eat the food that they eat, and meet them in the streets of the city." "I like your advice," the king said. And the next day, he was walking along the streets with 2 of his ministers. When it was time for dinner, the king said, "We shall not go to the palace for dinner. Let us go to a cafe where the people eat." The king and his ministers came to a small cafe in a little street. They decided to stop there. The king and his ministers opened the door and stepped inside. They passed through the outer room and walked into an inner room. The door closed behind them, and suddenly the floor slipped away from beneath their feet. The king and his ministers found themselves underneath the floor. They began to shout, but nobody came to help them. "A nice welcome for the king. Where are we? And why are we here?" said the king angrily. Suddenly, they heard a laugh, and they saw the ugly face of an old man above them. "Ha ha! In 3 days I shall kill you, and your meat will make a nice dish for our cafe. Everybody likes the food in our cafe. Ha ha ha!" With these words, the man went away. "Let us tell him who we are when he comes back," said one of the merchants. "Oh no," said the king. "If he knows that, he will kill us today. Give me some time to think." The king sat down by the wall and thought. Some hours later, the ugly man came back to them. "Here is some water for you to drink, but I shall not give you any food. You are fat enough." Then the king said, "If we must die, we must. But I want to tell you something. You may get much money for it." "Money? I like money very much," said the ugly man. "Go on." "I am a weaver, and the king's wife likes my work very much. I shall weave a handkerchief, and you can take it to her. You will get more money for it than any of the good dishes in your cafe, I am sure." The ugly old man thought over this proposition. Then he brought down an old loom and some yarn, and the king began to work. He made a beautiful handkerchief for Zacchia. The old man took the handkerchief and went to the king's wife with it. It was not easy to get to her, but at last the servants let him in. "I have a very beautiful handkerchief," said the old man to the king's wife. "Look at it, please. A good weaver made it. Will you buy it?" Zacchia looked at the handkerchief with disbelief. She knew at once that it was the king's handiwork. She understood that the king was in trouble. Yes, it is very beautiful," she said. "I like it and I'll buy it." Zacchia bought the handkerchief, but she told her servants to follow the old man, and she herself followed the servants on horseback. They came to the cafe and went in. Zacchia waited in the street. Very soon a fight began in the cafe. At last the king and his men were free. They came out of the cafe. "My dear Zacchia," said the king when he saw her, "you have saved my life. I love you more than anything in the world." Zacchia was happy. The king was safe. The king and his wife went home. Thank you for listening. I hope you liked the story. If you did, be sure to share it with your friends and subscribe to our channel. Bye-bye.